Hi, everybody. I want to show you a clip of Bill Maher, the famous American talk show host, talking about the Israeli-Palestinian, so-called Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I say so-called because I'm going very strong on arguing that the entire Palestinian narrative is a lie and a construct created simply to destroy Israel. They're not really interested in any particular kind of nationalism. It's just about destroying Israel. But I want you to see what he says about the whole Israel cause and what the Israel haters say about, accuse Israel of doing, because I think he makes some important points. Have a look.
I would submit that Israel did not steal anybody's land. This is another thing I've heard the last couple of weeks, words like occupiers and colonizers and apartheid, which I don't think people understand the history there. The Jews have been in that area of the world since about 1200 BC, way before the first Muslim or Arab walked the earth, 1,000 years before. I mean, Jerusalem was their capital. Okay, so if it's just about who got there first, it's not even close. There have been a continuous Jewish presence. Yes, the Jews were the ones who were occupied by everybody. The Romans took over at some point, and then the Persians and the Byzantines, and then the Ottomans. So yes, there was colonization going on there. Beginning in the 20th, 19th century, they started to return to Palestine, which was never an Arab country. There was never a country called Palestine that was a distinct Arab country. And yes, there was a problem there because there was two people who wanted to share the land, which is why the UN in 1947 said, okay, we're going to partition it. We have the map. I want to show people forget what the map looks like. This is what was on the table at the beginning. The green is the part that the Arab population would have gotten. It's a good part of the country. It's the good part, a lot of it. Look what Israel has, a little sliver by the coast and the desert in the south. That second map is what Israel has today. Yes, it is a lot more. But doesn't it behoove the people who rejected the treat, the half a loaf, and then continue attacked? Hamas's charter says they just want to wipe out Israel. Their negotiating position is you all die.
But I mean, there's a difference between defending Hamas, which I agree commits war crimes, and I would accept that. I think too often in liberal circles there's been a tendency to ally the repression of Hamas, the homophobia of Hamas, the misogyny of Hamas. But that also does not excuse Israel ruling Palestinians in the West Bank, for example, without giving them any vote, taking water and giving it to settlers, and maybe most important, damaging any possibility down the road of creating a two-state solution. You know, how do we avoid a war when somebody is shelling, your neighbor is shelling you? That's hard. But what we can do is try to create a two-state solution 10 years from now. And the way you do that is you don't build up settlements right now in the West Bank, and you don't create this.
I'm just going to stop it here. What amazes me where people still have this position like this guy does responding to Bill is that it's like the impossible is expected of Israel. At every single turn, whenever they've agreed to any kind of deal or proposed some kind of deal, they have been met with annihilationist strategy from the other side. Even with Gaza recently, they give land and they get October 7th. They get rockets. They get exterminationist agenda, where literally you have Hamas terrorists reading Mein Kampf in Gaza and having shops and stores called Hitler 2 on it. Meanwhile, Mahmoud Abbas, who's meant to be the so-called moderate, has a pay-for-slay system where his government, his funds, send money to Palestinian terrorists that go and kill Jews. He's the moderate. They have the pay-for-slay system. We'll give money to you and your family if you do that. Don't worry. And on top of that, what's his history? His history is studying in Russia, doing his PhD in how the Nazis and the Zionists collaborated. That's who your moderate is. And yet at every time we say, well, Israel, why are they not doing more to work towards a two-state solution? I'll tell you why they're not. Because it would mean national suicide. And I don't know why we keep dancing to this silly tune. Look, if we could come to a deal where there genuinely were moderates at the table, maybe there's something to talk about. But at every stage of the game, we have seen Palestinian leaders, past and present, creating the whole term simply as a ploy to annihilate the Jewish people and the Jewish state. And given that that's been its entire purpose, that the whole national identity, which wasn't even mentioned, there was no such flag and use of the word Palestinian prior to the 60s, before there was an Israeli presence in the West Bank, or really Judea and Samaria. So I don't know why we are expecting something to change when the whole thing is a massive lie from beginning till end. And therefore, a new strategy should be applied. A new strategy to work towards peace, by the way, which is actually, as Bill Maher started off, simply to tell the truth. The truth is that this is the Jewish people's land. The truth is, you want to talk about indigenous, it's the Jewish people's land. You want to talk about historical, it's the Jewish people's land. All of which, if you want to talk about international law, it's the Jewish people's land. Whether you talk about the legal purchases that occurred in the 1800s onwards, or the partition plan, the carving up that was done by the League of Nations, then the United Nations, whichever way you want to look at it, they are justified. It's Jewish land. It can be justified accordingly. And so this two-state solution model, it's been tried and it's continually failed because the whole agenda, as Dennis Prager said, one side wants the other side dead. It's that simple. And if you want to keep doing these deals, keep working towards a failed approach, then you'll just have more of those October 7th. I think reality has become very clear. The truth needs to out now, and the truth needs to prevail. And the truth is that this is the Jewish people's land. It always was. They've tried many, many, many times to do peace deals, but it's always been based on a lie. And so a different kind of solution needs to be found. As individuals, Arabs that live in this territory, they should absolutely be given rights and should be treated as human beings that are of infinite value and created in God's image. Absolutely. That's the Jewish people's message, is it not? So as individuals, absolutely. But as a national movement, they weren't complaining prior to any Jewish presence and Jewish sovereignty in the land. It's only when the Jews are in control that they seem to have a problem, which tells you that this is not about an authentic national cause. We have to start calling out this nonsense. We've tried it over and over and over again. And I think post-October 7th, we have realized that a different strategy is going to be needed. And it's one that we should be unashamed in speaking of. I'm Ollie Annisfeld and you're watching JTV.